Hey everyone, it's your friend Rye, the new home guy. I don't know what I'm going to say in the beginning of these yet, but this is the first show, podcast show, going to be a combination of both, of Ryan's Real Talk, where each week, every Wednesday I'll come to you, bring you a little podcast, giving you a little information about real estate. Sometimes it'll be buying tips, selling tips, how the market's doing. We'll do some interviews with some different people in the field, maybe some other real estate agents, some stagers, interior designers, loan officers, title company. We'll kind of rotate through all of that. We'll talk about investing a lot. We'll talk about getting the best deal, how to sell your home for the most money. I'll try to make some bad jokes and make it as great as possible. So we'll post it. It'll be on YouTube, and then we'll also post it probably on our Instagram video. IGTV. So we'll kind of see. It's not going to be edited. Well, might have very small editing, but for the most part, you just get the pleasure of listening to me talk to you. So every week we'll go through, I'll do a quick market update since I'm based out of Cache Valley and it's my specialty. I'm going to talk about Cache Valley. If you ever have questions about other markets in Utah, outside of Utah, I don't really know. But other markets of Utah, just shoot me a message and I'll let you know what I can find out or refer you to an agent that does know your market really well. So every week we'll go through a quick market update, give you a little idea of what's happening in Cache Valley. And then the bulk majority of the show, we'll be talking about a different topic every week. And then maybe do an interview, things like that in the middle. And then release it every week, a new show. So if there's ever anything you want to see on the show, let me know. I'm pretty flexible on doing what you want, but we'll kind of run through some shows that I've got planned and then hopefully start getting some input from you guys of what you want to know. So we'll jump right into the market update. So usually I'll do a month and a year to date. So since we're in January, there's only this month and year. It's all the same. So far in Cache County, right as of today, as of like 3 minutes ago on Wednesday, there's 207 homes on the market. That's really super low. It's kind of normal in the winter for it to drop down like that. In the summer, we're usually pushing 300 or just over 300. In the winter, it's not rare to see it drop down around 200, but normally we want to see a few more houses on the market than that. But the crazy news is that there's 143 houses under contract already. So tons of people are still buying houses. So if you look at that 143 under contract, that means those 207 houses are going to be sold within the next 45 days. So the market's turning super fast. So that's really good for sellers and for buyers, knowing that there's always going to be more houses coming on the market really quickly. And so far, we've only had 15 days in the month, but we've had 46 homes sell that have actually closed and recorded with the county. So Cache Valley typically sells between 1,500 and 1,600 homes over the course of the year. So 46 is a little slow for the pace, but we usually sell right about 90 to 120 in the winter months. So we're about on pace there. So I also want to break this down for people that kind of get a good idea of the market. For homes that are under 250,000, so generally what's going to be considered starter homes, anything under 250, there's 57 currently available on the market. So a lot more than people think. Sometimes people say there's no affordable houses on the market, but there's quite a few, and quite a few of those are under 200,000 even. And so far there's been 24 that have closed this year. So obviously if you can look at those, that means it's going to be super competitive for first-time home buyers or people looking at that price range, because there's only 57 houses available and there's already been 24 that have sold in the first 15 days of the month. So we'll kind of talk about getting the best deal as a new home buyer and things in today's episode. And then over 400,000 for my people that are in that price range or looking to buy in that price range, there's 38 on the market and none have sold yet. We haven't had any close. So that's your quick market update. Obviously, if you want special information, every house is different. Just because you're under 200,000 doesn't always mean you're going to sell fast. Just because you're over 400,000 doesn't mean you're going to sell fast. So let me know and I can give you your details. But today we're going to talk about how to get the best deal in real estate. It's probably the number one thing people ask me about is how they can get the best deal, whether they're selling or buying. Today, we're going to talk primarily for buyers. We're not going to be talking about how to sell your home for the most money. We'll probably do that down the road. But we're going to be focused specifically on, as a buyer, how do you get the best deal for a house? So the best deal on a house totally depends on each different person. So the lowest price isn't always the best deal. For example, let's say you find your dream house. It's exactly what you want, and there's 10 other people making offers on it. The best deal is getting that house and getting it locked up for you, even though there's 10 other competitors going after the house. So that might be the best deal for someone that's found their dream house. Maybe someone that's looking at their starter home doesn't care quite as much about the house, and it's all about the money side. So the best deal becomes a little bit different. Sometimes it's about who's willing to pay your closing costs, or who's willing to be flexible and close in 2 months instead of in 30 days. So the best deal varies a ton. But for the bulk majority of people, it's about price. When someone tells me they want the best deal, they're looking for the best price on a house. So let's kind of walk through that. Now, this is really interesting. People in the market now, because homes have appreciated so much, a lot of times I hear buyers say, well, they bought that house a year ago or 2 years ago and they only paid $180,000. Now they want $220,000. That's so unfair. That's a bad deal. Well, that is completely independent of whether it's a good deal or not. And, to kind of further show that, for example, let's say someone bought the house at the height of the market and they paid $275,000, and now they have it listed for $250,000. Does that mean it's a good deal? Maybe, maybe not, because maybe that house is only worth $230,000. So even though they're losing money, it's still not a good deal for you. Or let's say someone bought the house for $150,000, they're now selling it for $200,000, and it appraises for $210,000. It's a great deal, even though the seller's making $10,000. So kind of got to keep that in mind. It doesn't matter how much they paid for it. It doesn't matter how much money they put into it. None of those details matter for determining what's the best value for a home. If you're talking about getting the best deal, it's going to be saying, hey, compared to what they're going for in the market, how much below that can I get it? That's really the difference. Doesn't matter how much money they paid for it. So I've got people that, there's a couple different strategies for finding homes that are going to be the best deal for you. The number one thing when we're talking about price is we've got to find a motivated seller. Okay, this can come in a couple different forms. First, it could be someone that they inherited the house. They don't have any interest in trying to do updates or take care of it or get the yard looking good. They just want to sell fast and split the money out amongst all the inheritors. And so they're looking more for a quick sell, more than pricing it at the top of the market and slowly reducing it. So if we find people in that situation, great opportunity to get in, offer something to be a fast close, meet their deadlines, what they're hoping for, and get a little bit lower price. Another way of finding motivated sellers is looking for houses that have been on the market for a long time. So my wife and I have flipped now 2 houses. The first house we got, we were able to get an amazing deal on it because it'd been on the market for over a year. So we went through, saw the house. They had it listed for $295,000. After we walked through, we knew we were going to have to spend like $100,000 on it to fix it up. And so we just said, hey, we can close in 3 weeks. We're great buyers. We're all qualified. We'll be able to close within 3 weeks. We're not going to ask for any repairs, anything like that, but we need it for like $60,000 off. And so we ended up getting it for, I think, $240,000, $242,000, something like that. And it appraised for $275,000 or something in that range. So it was a great deal because the sellers hadn't gotten any interest at their price. And I figured it's because it was priced a little bit too high, so they weren't getting any bites. So we were able to go in, make a good offer, explain our situation of why we needed it for that price. And they were happy to get it off their hands because we could close in 3 weeks. So number 2 way of finding a great motivated seller, people that have been on the market for a long time. They're sick of showings. They're sick of open houses. They just want it gone. And so they get to a point where they're willing to take less than what they originally would have taken because it hasn't sold. They need someone to take it. So another way that we can look for motivated sellers is finding people that have reduced the price. So this doesn't always guarantee a good deal because someone might price their house $10,000 over value to start out the beginning, and then they reduce it $10,000. So it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, now all of a sudden they're super competitive, we're going to get a great deal. But it could show a sign that they realize they priced it wrong, and now they've turned away the first set of buyers that have come through. Now maybe we can go in and negotiate for a little bit lower price, get some off closing costs, things of that sort. So, and then the last area where I typically see more motivated sellers is if, let's say, the seller is under contract to purchase their next house, but they made it contingent on selling their current house. A lot of times, if they're not getting a lot of activity fast, they start to panic and they need to get it sold because they're in love with their next house. So they don't want to lose that house because they can't sell their house in time. So a lot of times that's an easy way for us to go in, negotiate, say we could be flexible, meet their terms, everything, and then close still within 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it needs, so they don't lose their next house. So when working with all these people, those are kind of the main categories of where I find the most motivated sellers. A lot of times people will even put in the description motivated seller. And so if you want a list of specifically those people, I have a way to create an updated list that will always send you that update. So if you want that, it makes it really easy. The easiest way to know if someone's motivated is if they write it in the description themselves. That's pretty obvious. So now when we go to make an offer on these houses, a lot of people come in with the mentality of, let's just offer the lowest price possible and see what happens. Now, I come from the car industry. Sir, I sold cars for a year and a half, almost 2 years. Then I was a manager for 3 years. And I can tell you that selling cars and buying houses, very different situations. Car people are used to getting lowball offers, and they're trained just to go get a commitment for any price. Just get them to split the difference, get them to come up $1,000, get them whatever it is. Very different in homes. You've got to remember that when you're making an offer on someone's house, most of the time they're super emotionally connected to the property. So if you come in and say, hey, we want 100 grand off, or we want 50 grand off, or even 30 grand off, and they've only been on the market 10 days and they've had other activity, they're not going to even want to respond to your offer. They're going to be offended. They're going to say, hey, this person obviously doesn't like our house. Why do they think it's worth so much less? So they're just not even going to respond to your offer. I've had, on both sides, I've had buyers that I've counseled and talked to them and said, hey, I don't recommend this price because of this reason, but if you're okay losing the house because we offer too low of a price, that's fine. And they've gone forward, and then the seller doesn't even respond. They don't send a cancellation. They don't send a rejection of the offer. They just don't even reply to the offer. And then I've been on the other side where sellers, we've gotten some really low offers in, and they just look at it and they say, well, who is this person? How dare they send me that low of an offer? It's always fun for me to try to calm them down and be, their coach, their mentor, their psychologist to help calm them down a little bit. But either way, I've almost never seen it work out for the benefit. Now, there's some rare situations, such as a vacant house in an inherited house, where maybe we do have a little bit more room to throw in a low offer because they're not as emotionally connected. So instead of throwing in a crazy lowball offer, the way that I found best is by having a great real estate agent that knows how to negotiate with the listing agent ahead of time to set expectations and figure it out. So this is part of my secret of what I do as an agent, is when I'm going to put together an offer and say, we know we can't afford what they've got it listed at, we need them to come down 5 or 10 or 15,000, I'm going to get on the phone with the real estate agent ahead of time, and I'm going to say, hey, other than price, what things are most important to your seller in the offer they get? Because obviously every seller is going to say first, we want the highest price. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that out of the conversation right out of the beginning, because that's not what we're going to talk about. What we want to talk about is, are there any certain terms, any deadlines, any extra earnest money, certain down payment, any of those types of sorts, or maybe they want to sell some of the furniture, or they don't want it, or they want to leave the fridge, and so we can negotiate terms around those things. So there's a lot of other things that we can do to strengthen our offer without having the highest price. And so one of the tricks is talking through that with them. So if we can be flexible on those terms, that helps it. So now we can get a lower price because maybe we're not the highest price, but we check every other box of what they're looking for. So huge key. If you're another real estate agent out there, I would recommend start using that approach for your clients. I guess I shouldn't give away all my secrets, but what does it matter? Here to help. So, And if you are looking for a house, find you an agent that cares and takes the time to do things like that for you to help you get the best deal. Now, the other thing is going to be making sure you're all good to go on your end. You need to be pre-approved. We need to make sure you've got your cash funds available, everything of that sort, and that your lease on your rental or your other house that you're going to sell, we've got all of those things lined up. And we get all of your ducks in a row so that when we go to put the offer in, we don't have all these other random conditions or things that are going to make it less appealing to the seller. If you fall in that category where we do have a house to sell, or we are going to need 2 months or something of that sort, that's okay. We just have to realize that if we're not putting forward the most appealing of all of the other conditions, we might not be able to negotiate quite as low of a price as if maybe we do, if we were to have those other terms laid out. So that kind of covers the basics of what I recommend for finding the best deal. Some of the other things is knowing, one of the things I was going to mention, so maybe for you the best deal is not just getting the lowest price. Let's say you're a little tight on cash and you need your closing costs covered or things of that sort. Make sure you have an agent that's going to listen to you, work through your situation, and then be able to negotiate that strongly to the seller. So let's say your loan officer has told you you're going to need $5,000 towards closing costs and you also need 3% down, or maybe you're doing 0% down and you can't quite reach that. Make sure that you have an agent that isn't going to settle and just raise the price every time to get you the house. So one thing a lot of agents, or sometimes in the market, it's just what it requires, is that you'll put the price, let's say someone's got a house listed at $250, they're going to put in an offer for you at $255 and ask for $5,000 in closing costs. So you're going to end up paying over the list price. Now, that's not always bad, but it's usually just there's a middle ground that we could negotiate. So maybe we get full list price, but we ask for the $5,000 to be paid for by the seller. Or maybe we go $1,000 over list price or $2,000 over list price and still ask for the full $5,000 to be paid by the seller. So there's lots of middle ground. And like I said, that's why getting the best deal isn't just the lowest price. There's so many other factors to it. And that's why you should work with a real estate agent to help get those details ironed out and make sure you get the best deal. So I have people ask me all the time of when they should ask me, when they should reach out to me to start working with them. It's never too early. If you're planning to buy a home anytime in the next year or so, it's great to get in touch with whether me as a real estate agent or whoever you're planning to use to start making a game plan so you can start making sure that you're ready when it comes the time to buy, that everything else you have is lined up to make sure you can get the best deal. And also, I'd recommend interviewing a few agents along the way. And too often people either just go with whoever they called off of Zillow or a family friend that they've never heard of or never met, or a distant cousin or whatever it is. That's great. I would meet with those people. I would just also interview them, make sure that they've got a game plan on how to get you the best deal, and go with whichever of the agents you feel most like you can trust and has your best interests at heart. So that kind of covers it for today's today's topic. I guess it's kind of a buyer's lesson on getting the best deal. So that's it for this week. I'm going to try to have some interviews and things like that, and probably some terrible jokes or something for you, or some memes or something we can look at in the future. But I wanted to get the first one of the year out. So if you have any question about how to get the best deal, whether buying or selling, and you're looking for a great agent, make sure to just DM me or message me, and I'll get you taken care of. Until next week, it's Ryan with Rise Real Talk.